All right, welcome everyone. This is a Viper training and support webinar. The date is March 9th, 2013. The title of today's webinar is Trading Made Easy with Viper Tools. And as everyone knows that's been to our webinars or our live trading rooms, everything that we say and do at Viper Trading Systems is for educational purposes only. Futures trading, forex trading, any kind of financial instruments trading involves an element of risk, and there's always risk of loss. You should only trade discretionary capital, and that is money that you can afford to lose. Nothing said in this webinar, other webinars we have, or our live trading rooms should ever be construed as trading or investment advice. And as always, everyone does trade at their own sole discretion. Any questions on the disclaimer before we get started? All right, we're going to go very, very in-depth just on one chart today, and I want everybody to get, and by the way, we've got a few guests, matter of fact, quite a few guests in the room today, and I want to go over this idea of identifying swings and being able to tell, where you want to be on that trade, okay? Because I think too many people that I talk to, they get in late and then they put a tight stop. And if you're going to get in late, you're going to have a heavier stop, okay? And that's extremely important, because I can tell you that most times when you take a trade, you're going to be taking a trade based on what somebody else saw also, and if they got in earlier, they're going to be taking their profits, fairly quickly once they get some ticks under the belt, so to speak. All right, so let's go ahead and show the screen. Should be able to see the screen coming up. And we've got a Russell chart to show you today. All right, now we're going to go over just a couple of simple things first off, okay? I want to show everybody in this room how to identify a swing, when a swing has actually been truly identified as a low or a high, because that is so important in your trading that without it, I don't think a person can actually trade, okay? Because it's super important to be able to tell where your swing is. Now you'll notice on this chart right here that I went ahead and put some squares, okay, some little rectangles. And the reason that I did this is because I'm only getting these higher swings, for instance, right now, of course, you can totally tell we're in an uptrend, right? I mean, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to see that we're heading up. At the moment, anyway, we're at 7:30 in the morning, yesterday morning, okay? So what I look at to identify my swings, let's just go a little deeper into it right in through here. All right, let's say that you saw this swing right here. We don't even care what's to the left of the chart right now, but I do like to look at those. But here is a swing, okay, right here where my cursor's at, okay? This was the previous high. This is this new low. And this swing right here is not identified as long as it's chopping around between support and resistance. Because at this moment even, this could be the high of the day, but they could still continue going up, okay? But they may test a lower level. See, this is a swing that's identified on a little bit more of a mini scale. See this one? Because it's gone up quite a bit above the previous high. See that high right there? And it's gone up. Now this has made a new low. This is not taken out this swing yet. Okay, this swing is not identified at the moment, okay? And like I said, that's extremely important, because what the markets are doing continually is trading from resistance to support. If they're in an uptrend, they may be buying support, selling resistance, and a lot of traders out there even short resistance, okay? When they see resistance hit, they'll short it, okay? We don't trade like that. As you can clearly see, this is a green background, which we purposely designed so that we can tell when a trend is up. We purposely designed our long-range trailing stop dots to tell us, okay? And if you have platinum, this is the mid-band on platinum, and it's also telling you the trend is up, okay? So we don't have to just go making guesses at which way this thing's going to go, okay? Now, when this swing gets identified right here is going to be when it takes out this previous swing right back here by at least, I like to go by even over 6 to even 10 ticks, because if they don't take out a previous one, like if they just wick it, to give an example, you've seen them where they wick it. Well, guess what they're going to do if they pop up a tick above that? They're going to come all the way back down to here, or at least another one of these smaller levels before they pop back up. Everybody see that? All right. Now let's look at it. Let's just go a little bit at a time here. All right. This swing becomes identified to me right in through here at least. See how that's like 3 candles up? That swing right there is identified as far as my overall trend is concerned. But now I've got another little nicety on here because I've got a little micro swing right here. Everybody see it? You just draw a little ellipse around it. See this little area right here? Let me take that down a notch so you can see it. Well, not 1, we'll go 2. Yeah, there we go. All right, see that little micro swing right there? Now that's telling me that this little swing should hold, okay, because it's finally, in the micro move of it, it took out that swing. See that little swing's identified right there? Whenever this is taken out, for instance, even up to here, like so, that little swing is identified right there. That's how you can stay in a gusto trade, by the way, what we call a gusto trade. Pardon me if you're new in this, because a gusto trade is just strictly a runner, okay? A runner is extremely important because how many times have you gotten in a trade and think, okay, I'm going to jump in and get 7 or 8 ticks, and then what does the market do? It does that, okay? You don't want to do that because there's a way to stay in these trades, and we teach it at Viper every single day, okay? Now, like I said, this is a little bit more of your true trend because this is your larger retracements. I like to look at my larger retracements to where they at least come down and make yellow bars. See here? Yellow bars. Yellow bars. Even red bars, by the way. But not just the same one. This is more of a micro swing here. See it where it's still blue? Make a little micro swing and you head up. Okay, but these deeper retracements are the ones that will define your longer term swings. Okay. Let's see, Dory, how many ticks you want to see above 932.10 to consider a break and swing identified 6 ticks? 932.10. You're talking about right here. Right here? Well, we're just talking about identifying swings right now. But keep in mind the way you would have traded this, the way we teach trading this, by the way. Let's just look at this. If this was happening in real time, pretend it's not almost the close of the afternoon, because that is, but let's just look at it. We like to look at this, and when I get a situation like this where it just drops and drops and drops, I draw a trend line, okay? And I like to get a little retracement on it, but I will take a trade if it breaks this little trend line here, okay, that I'm drawing. I can't really draw it too well because we don't have the right side of the chart. Let's just draw it like that. All right, now we can draw it a little bit better. See it right through there? Now, that also hit the mid-band. See the mid-band on platinum? Okay, so your trade is not way up here. I mean, that to me is that's a breakout trade. Now, granted, that one worked out. We saw it, right? But if you take breakout trades, you're going to get wicked in. Here's a breakout trade. See it right there? Wicked up, straight down to support. So I don't take breakout trades. I mean, let's face it, even though that was just a wick, if you had your buy sitting right there, you know, just thinking, let's go back here and look. Let's say, okay, we think, wow, if this breaks up here, I'm going to take this long. What happens? They wick it, and then, ouch, they come all the way back down to support. See that? See the support? Right across there. And then what do? Then they say, okay, now that we kicked everybody else's teeth out, we're going to go ahead and take this thing very possibly to the upside. But smart traders draw their trend lines and get into the trades. Let's go ahead and go back to this other one so we can study that swing. Bear with me a second. Okay, right here was this swing, right? And we knew that this one wasn't even identified at the moment because it hadn't taken this out. But we expect anytime you've had higher highs than the previous swings, okay, they're going to try to test them. You ever notice that? See, a high, they tested it. right? A high, they tested it. A high, they tested it. A high, they're going to test it. You know, and that's pretty common until you get a trend change. And Viper is going to let you know with its tools when you get that trend change. We're going to show that in a little while. Okay, I'm going to stop for just a minute because we're 10 minutes into the webinar. Anybody have any questions on this? Because to me, this is the most important thing about trading. Now, this is the way I personally trade. It is hard to call out an exact entry on a trend line break because we're using a tool called money line, and we're going to have that tool on that chart and take that trade. See, because let's say, for instance, at the moment you're drawing your line down through these highs, I can't tell you that the entry's here because it goes down again. I can't tell you the entry's here because it goes down again. When it finally breaks the line, guess what? I'm in. Philip, on your question, you can actually trade chop too. I can show some of that here in a bit. We trade that with trend line breaks. Okay, this little tool called Moneyline and also our tool called Viper Trendline Trader will really make you some serious coin. Let's see. How did you know that that trend line didn't get in on the highest point? Well, for one thing, Jim, on your question, now keep in mind this is the time of day you probably wouldn't trade anyway. But okay, you had like a medium swing here. You had this swing up here, and see how platinum just follows the trade, and we're staying in this shadowed area right here. That's a real good area to jump in a trade, by the way. Okay, and Rich teaches that in the platinum webinars. But let's say that you didn't even get in there. Let's just pretend that we say, well, wait a minute, this thing's heading back up. Okay. When do you get in? Okay, you could draw a trend line across here. A lot of our people like to wait for the first thrust, little pullback, and then draw their trend line like right through there. See it? Right through there. Or you could wait for a break of the swing, like that. See the little swing? Because it did try to retrace a little bit. A lot of our people will do that. That's called a Pottery Entry, by the way. We teach that in our webinars also. Now, I like this particular entry, especially when I get a nice little thrust down, because I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 candles. That's 20 ticks. And I know if they break that trend line that they're more than likely going to retrace at least 10 of it. Because what is that? That would be a thrust. Retrace would be a Fibonacci type level at 50%. And of course, if it goes up higher, naturally you get even a better move. But what about the trader that takes the breakout trade? Okay, this particular one worked. There's no question about it. Look at that. It just worked. That is probably 30%, if that, of trades that work out. Okay, because how many times did you see the breakout trades along in here didn't work? I mean, let's face it. You know, we've got, let's say that you had a buy right in above this little swing here. All right, you got it right there. See it? And then they take it down 10 ticks. Do that with 4 contracts, and that's a $400 bill. 30%, Fitzroy says. I believe that. I think it's pretty much 70-30. The market chops 70% of the time, and it trends 30% of the time. And that's pretty accurate. Okay, let's see. Sometimes it breaks out strong with testing specific high. If I wait to test and it never comes back. Philip, on your question there, I actually personally like the trend line break myself. Okay, to give an example, even this little move here, see how we had blue platinum and everything? You know, this came down a little bit, thrust back. You got a little Potter entry right in through here. You can draw a trend line. You did feel some heat on that trade though, but I like this particular trend line the best, and we draw this in the room all the time, right there. And then I would put my stop just under there. And that trade did nicely, and it came up and kissed my swing, and that's what I wanted it to do. See? All right, let's go ahead and go back to that other trade. There are lots of trades on these charts, and you can flat take them if you do the way we teach in our webinars and the way we teach people to draw on their charts, how to see these trades. They're incredible. Okay? All right. Now, let's go ahead and talk a little bit more about identified swings. Extremely important. Let's see. Kamal says how to decide about target with trendline based entry. Well, what I normally do always on my target, to give an example, okay, right down in here, we know our medium swing is here because we had a thrust up, right? So that's our medium swing right there. This is our more major swing where I've drawn these boxes because they retraced enough to get these yellow or red bars. See, when we're in an uptrend, we've got blue bars, but we have yellow on our retracement, and if they go deeper, they're red. Now on a downtrend, we have red bars for the regular bars, and then yellow bars for the retracement, and then blue bars for deeper retracements. Okay? Now, when I take a trade like this right here, okay, when I break a trend line, I expect it to stay broken. We talk about it in the room all the time. If I take a trend line break and I've got a swing, I'll put my stop just a couple of ticks under it, because sometimes they do a little A, B, and barely a C and then pop up. So you put it just a tad below the swing that you just did. You always, when you get a few ticks, when I get 7, 8, 9, 10 ticks in the room, I always call a trade, you know, to tell people, hey, protect your coin. It's extremely important. All right. Now, we're gonna talk about a little bit more of these swings so that we can all identify these swings, and also how to use some of the special tools we've got with Viper. Okay, let's go ahead and just watch this thing. Okay, remember we got in way down in here, and by the way, I'm going to show some areas that if you were in the room yesterday, you know exactly where we called these trades, and they worked. All right, but what we do when we take these trades like this, all right, see when this goes up like this and you get this first little pullback, see that little pullback right there? Now what I'll do, if I'm in like 4 contracts, okay, I get 10 ticks, I'm going to take 2 off, or at least when it gets to a previous swing. This is my goal right off the bat, is just to hit the previous swing. If it blows through it, I stick with all 4 contracts, okay? But sometimes if you get like 7, 8, 9, 10 ticks, you want to take off at least 1, because a lot of times they'll pull right back to where you were, okay? And that's a heavy part of trading, is getting in a trade and being up 10 ticks and then right back down to your cost. So I do like to peel, okay? But another way you can do it too, you get this little action like this. Draw a trend line under it. Let's just draw the trend line, because this is extremely important way to trade. There's your trend line right through there. Now that's at the moment, okay, because see, you're doing what we call pottering up. Now when they start just going up like crazy, you can draw a tighter trend line, right? Wait for it to do a little retracement and then draw a trend line. There's a low, there's another low. Couldn't you draw a trend line there? We see this all the time in our trading room, like so. You can lag it behind it just a little bit, or you can tighten it right up underneath it. You can actually use a tool we've got called money line, and if it takes out the line with a close, you're out of the trade, like so. See there? Would take you out right there. Okay? That's the way I like to trade. Okay? Now, does that mean you have to be out of this trade yet? It really doesn't, does it? Because guess what? You've got an identified swing right down here. Now, that's a huge burst, so I like to protect some profit in a case like that. You always want to protect some profit when they break a trend line. Okay? And I think that's pretty important. All right, let's see. That yellow break in 1658 come to 2032 takes 4 hours. Who can expect that change? Well, Daniel, what we're talking about right now, and keep in mind, I'm not talking about the time of day. I'm talking about trading price, trading the way we teach it in our webinars, okay? Because, yes, you can hold a trade. You could obviously put a line underneath those lows, and I don't care if it took until the middle of the morning. You could get out of the trade way later. Some trades do take a long time, okay? Everybody see that? Because that's a very good way to trade, by the way. An extremely good way to trade. Now, let me ask you a question. If you get this trend line break, all right, where do you want to get back in this trade? Does anybody know about where you want to get in the trade? All right, let's look and see if we can get in it. I don't even know what it did, but let's just look. Okay, we got a yellow bar probe. All right, let's let it ping around a little bit so we can draw a trend line. There, that should be a pretty good trend line right through there. See it? Right through there. Let's see if we can draw it. Right about through there. See it right across that top? Let's see where it goes. All right, trend line not broken yet. Trend line not broken with a close. You could actually take that right in through here, but what I like to do is the Pottery entry. So we're going to go ahead and take this line one more time because we're not getting a Pottery entry yet. See, we're not breaking this swing. So I'm going to now adjust my trend line like so. Okay, because we're still not in it. It's still what we call retracing. See it? Retracing. All right, so we're going to let it retrace. All right. And then you could be in it here, or you could be in it when it takes out the potter, which is right there. See that little swing? Now that's not a breakout trade there. Okay, that's just breaking a swing is all that is. All right, you're in, and you go to the swing. See it? We didn't even have to look at the chart. We just trade like we were taught in our room. We watch and we make sure that we quit going down. Okay, we were still going down. But when you get this, where you can draw these trend lines, pretty soon you're going to find out you're going to get a pretty decent trade. And look where that came to. Didn't we say that was our identified swing? I just about bet you it was on the money, as a matter of fact. There it is. See that? You could take a red bar probe on that too, absolutely. Now keep in mind, this was 7:30. Okay, this is when the non-farm payroll came out. Okay, well, we're just going to look at price action just to see if we could trade it. You know, we're not going to care. We're just going to look at price action with swings. Everybody remember we said this was our identified swing? Remember I said it was because look at that move. But remember we got out of the trade because it broke the trend line? Okay. Where could you get back in the trade? Right where we drew the line. Let's see. Well, Dory, now what I like to personally do, even on yellow bar probes, okay, this is not the first yellow bar probe. 1, 2, 3, 4. That's not a yellow bar probe that you take the normal Viper way. Okay, the first yellow bar probe straight out of the box, this one right here, your entry was right there on an aggressive entry. See it? One tick above that bar. So you would be in that trade right there. Felt a little heat, and then it broke up. Okay? That's the first yellow bar probe after a trend change. Okay? The trend had changed. See it? The green on the platinum. Okay? Also, the long-range trailing stop dots were long, so that was a perfect entry. Now, when you start getting to number 2, what you want to do is wait for the pottering down, so to speak, as it's pottering around. See, because there's your aggressive entry right there, okay? But you only take your aggressive entry on your first one. And I even still like a trend line break. See the trend line? Little thrust down, little retrace, you draw a trend line. You get in the trade. And then you put your stop just under the swing. Okay? But when they're doing this, see, this is actually thrust down, retrace, still heading down. But couldn't you draw a trend line right now? See it right there? Let's just look at it. See if we can get in this trade. Something about right through there. Okay? You're in and you got some ticks. See it? Trend line break. Wait for the little pullback and you draw your trend line. Do you get a nice trade then? Well, you'd put your stop just under here. See it? Right there. Will it take us out? It might. If it does, it does. See, there's a swing. It just touched it, or missed it by a tick, actually. And then you'd probably be out simply because you've got a swing. This is pretty sideways, but notice how that gets some profit each and every time. Where was it going? To that swing right across there. See it right across there? All right. And by the way, if you get taken out, like so, look for a get back in. Because then look at your chart and say, okay, wait a minute, I've got a low. which is identified right here. This is still a higher low. So let's say that you took some profit. I don't know, that might have been 7, 8 ticks. We do that all the time in the room. You've got a swing that's identified right here. If they kiss that, maybe you want to get back in if it breaks the trend line. Draw your trend line, see if it does its little thing. There it is. And you should be able to draw the trend line and pop into the trade. See? It works. Let's see. Many times I'm wicked into these trades just to be taken down, and those stops add up, as I pointed out. I understand that. But the thing is, what you're going to want to do, okay, is always look at your chart. All right. What is the chart telling you even at this moment? Let's say, for instance, that you got in this trade here. That was definitely a higher low than that. That was a trend line break, and you got a few ticks. Now, my rule of thumb, if they take me out at cost after I get 6 or 7 ticks, or at least the swing, all right? But if you put, say, for instance, 3 or 4 contracts on and you get 6 or 7 ticks, and then they come right back to cost again, then scratch the trade. But you could take some contracts off the moment you get some. You see, in the room, for instance, we trade like this all the time. We showed a $500 trade right before we left the room on Friday, and I'm going to show you where that one was at. And it hit exactly where I said it was going to hit. Everybody in the room remembers where we said it was going to hit if you were in the trading room yesterday. Okay, but when you're looking at this, is this actually heading down or up at the moment? Are they going to test some lows? They'll test them, but they didn't take that low out, see it? And then it popped up. So when I get in a trade like that and I get a few ticks and they take me out at cost, then I'm looking for another entry. Okay, and you're going to see those entries. You could wait on stealth even to come back, and the blue bars if you wanted to. You know, but that's going to be late because guess what? Your stop's all the way down to here, just like mine would be if I got taken out of this trade and got back in this one that we drew. Remember, we drew the little line right across there, thrust down, little retrace, tried to head down, then popped up. Trend line break is right through there. Okay. All right, let's go ahead and go. This is the middle of the night. Let's go to some real trading where we got these trades yesterday morning. Okay, I'm going to take off, well, we don't need this line here because it's not necessary. And don't need this one anymore. Don't need that one anymore. And let's go to where we start trading. All right, now let me ask you a question here, by the way. Let's go ahead and take this one off too. We don't want this confusing at all. All right, when you look at the markets, okay, and you get up in the morning, always make sure that you see these swings so that you can tell which way the market's heading. Look at your indicators to tell where they say you're heading. If you've got platinum, look at it. It's heading up. See it? See the platinum, the phantom part of platinum heading up? Okay, and you've got your blue bar right here. All right, where is your identified swing on this particular trade? We showed it. It was right there. What did they do when they came down? They tested it. See it? That's an identified swing. Now that's what we call a micro swing, but since it took it way up above it, that's a pretty important area. Okay, and see how they tested it? If they would have taken this market down, they would have taken that swing out. Everybody see that? Okay. Now let's go. Non-farm payroll happened. We're going to just look at these charts. Okay. You couldn't get in it here. No way, because non-farm payroll shotgunned. This is the shotgun of non-farm payroll. 7:30. Okay. Draw your little swing again. See it? Okay. Now what do we do as Viper traders? We've got what we call breakout zones, right? But we're patient. We're very patient on our trading. We want to wait until our zone finishes. It's still 7:30. That's shotgun. Look at that. From there to there. That's not even a minute. Okay? So what we're doing, we're patiently waiting to take a trade. All right? We're going to wait till 7:35 because that's 5 minutes after non-farm payroll report comes out, right? But we're watching our charts. We're clearly watching our charts to see where this thing could be heading, right? Now, let me ask you a question. If you're a gutsy trader, you can see a trend line right there, okay? Where would they be heading if they break that trend line? I know our Viper traders have been with us a long time will know it. Rob, on your question, what we normally do on trend lines is they're not like static where you just leave them. We watch the little, we call it the potter, where they actually make a lightning bolt. Let me just show you what we're actually looking for. And I've got this on the charts here in a couple of minutes and you'll see it. But we're looking for this type of action, like this. This is what we call the potter because it looks like a lightning bolt on old Harry Potter's forehead. That's really the only reason it got named that. And one of our members kind of kidded around one day and said, that looks like old Harry Potter's forehead. So we started calling it the Potter trade. Okay? That's the Potter trade. Okay, and I'm going to show you exactly how to take that trade too. All right, so let's look at this. If you waited till 7:35, let's just go ahead and, we've got a tool in Viper that will draw these zones. Everybody that's with us knows the tool is called Breakout Zones. Let me just show it to you. All right, we've got Breakout Zones. That's the open of the market, and we've got another one set for the non-farm payroll. See how I set the time for 7:31 to start my box to 7:35 to end my box, okay? But in the trading room, we always talk about drawing trend lines in these boxes to try to get the trades, okay? So we're going to watch that box the way it formed in real time on Friday, okay? This box will be drawn from 7:31 to 7:35 on the chart, and it'll also draw some lines for us that are 4 ticks from the bottom and 4 ticks from the top, and also a midline. Okay, I'm going to show you that box. These are tools that we've got with Viper. Very powerful. Okay, here's our box, by the way. See the box forming right here? That little rectangular box. See it right there? Let me change the color of it so you can really see it, because I've got those other boxes in blue. So let's just put this puppy in, I don't know, chartreuse. Now let's do it in white since it's on red background. There you go. You can see the box, right? That's the box. Now, don't I have a trend line, though? This is what we call our conservative trend line. See it? You got to thrust down, retrace. You got a lower high. All right, like that. Do we still expect this trade to go up or down at the moment? Well, I've got a low here. I've got a higher high here. I've got a fresher low here. Absolutely, you're looking for it to go up, right? All right, so let's watch it as it draws inside its box. Okay, we're not getting nervous. We're taking the trade only when it takes out the box or that trend line. There's our box ended right there. See the box ended? This is what we call our zone trade. All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to take a trade when it breaks that trend line, or when it breaks this cyan line right here. This is actually an upward movement right here when we take out that 4 ticks from the top. But I've got a trend line drawn, so I'm using money line. All right, we're just putting a buy in right there for money line, and we expect the trade to go to here or here, one of these swings. So you've got swings all through here, little minor ones, but they're there. All right, so we're going to take the trade if it takes it out. All right, there's your trade. Okay, now where do we expect it to go? Well, of course we expect it to go to the top, right? All right, if it doesn't take out this cyan line, by the way, we're going to stay with this trade to the upside. If it did close below that cyan line, we're going to actually close out the trade. You could even flip it, but I would only flip it when it took out a trend line, and we'll draw a trend line to the downside too. All right? But keep in mind, by the way, if you got in this trade right here, all right, this little trade, we expect it to go to the swing. See it? Right across there. Now, couldn't you protect some profit right there? Right across there? Because that's a swing. And that was hit triple times at non-farm payroll. So you could just about bet that'll hold for a little bit. so you take some profit. Draw your trend line, though, as soon as you get the first little thrust. As soon as I get like 10 ticks or so, I take out a couple of contracts. I watch for the first little pullback, which is right there. See it? That's the first little pullback. And then we draw our trend line. See it right there? I always like to get a thrust, a little pullback, and if it takes me out where I got in at cost or something, or even a little lower, I'll get out of the trade. Okay? It tries to go up again. All right, you've got a trend line drawn now. See the trend line? See the trend line right through there? And you get out of the trade on that bar right there, or at least when it takes out the little swing, which would be on the next bar. See it? Everybody see that? That's what we were trading with Viper every single day. Okay, every single day that we trade with it. That's what we call a zone box, and that was a beautiful trade. Keep in mind, with a few contracts, that's a heck of a trade, by the way. Up there to the top, wasn't it? All right. Now, this is because of the non-farm payroll report. That can be a one and done trade. Your next high energy time is the open of the market. Okay? The open of the market in Oklahoma time, which is where I live, is 8:30. So we actually draw a box at 8:30. Let's go ahead and go over there to it. We're not even going to trade this. We don't even care. It's okay if you want to trade it. There are some trades here, by the way. Let me just show you some. So you got a little thrust retrace right through there. You got a trend line. They tried to make that high again. Here's our zone box. There's 8:30 in the morning. There's a zone break, by the way, if you take a trend line break. See it right there? What did it do? It like quadruple topped. But if you didn't even take this trade, it did break a trend line. It is at the open. We usually like to wait a few minutes after the open. Let's say you didn't take that trade. I did draw that on the chart, and if you wanted to take like one contract and just test the waters, you could. But here's where we actually called the trade in the room Friday. Saturday. We don't trade on Saturday. All right, see our box forming? This is our zone box. Let's go ahead and change the color of it again so you can see it. We'll change it to probably a blue of some kind. There we go, blue. We'll just do regular blue. All right, there's our box. Okay, we got a swing right here. Now, this is a breakout trade, granted. We don't care about breakout trades as much when the market opens. See that right there? The zone ended when the box quit drawing right there. All right, if it takes out that pink line to the downside with the close of a bar, you can go ahead and take the trade. You've got a trend line drawn already across your little pottering, see it? So if this thing decides to flip the other way, you can get out, right? All right, we got that trade. All right, we were in this trade. Now, you could have been in this trade earlier, the way I teach it in my webinars on Wednesday nights on that trend line break, if you wanted to be in at the market open. Now, usually what I'll do with those type of trades is I'll dip the toe with one or two contracts. It broke the trend line. I would not let it break it back to the upside. Because if I got in right there on that trend line break, I would definitely not let it take that trend line back out and start heading up. Okay? Now, this trade we did in the room, live in the room yesterday, and I'm going to show you how to stay in this trade. I want to show you how to get what we call the gusto trade, because this is the time of morning right here that you're going to get what we call a gusto runner trade, okay? And you simply look at your different swings and you watch the bars, okay? Now, I've got this purposely drawn in this chart with these little lines, and the reason I did that is because this is the way we traded this. All right, we got a thrust down. We came down to support. See support right through there? Guess what? We finally broke it, okay? So that's clearly telling you that the market's trying to head down a little bit, right? All right, but we're already in the trade because we trade with what we call zones. All right, this is a breakout zone. All right, so let's stick with this trade as long as we can. By the way, 4 contracts on that's already worth over $400. All right, we wait for the first little retrace, tiny retrace even. It doesn't even have to be anything. It doesn't have to go all the way back up here. It could, and a lot of times they do. okay? But what I like to do is draw, I get my little line, I get a little retracement, and then I watch and see if it rolls over. We call this rollover in the room. All right, see your rollover? See that trade right there? All right, now where's your identified swing? This is extremely important when you're trading if you want to stay with a gusto trade. All right, right this very moment, my identified swing is right here, right where that swing is. What did it do? It thrust down, it retraced a little bit, and it dropped off the map. By the way, a few contracts in that and you're up pretty nicely. Dory, on your question, well, there was 2 entries in this. Remember, we teach this. You've got an aggressive entry, even inside the zone. I like to watch, even in chop like this, I like to watch for trend line breaks. See, you can see a trend line, thrust, little retrace, goes up. So your trend line you can start drawing, right? And then when the box starts right there, it broke the trend line to the downside, okay? Now that's a pretty gutsy trade, but you can take those because a lot of times all they did is test a top, and what are they doing? They're at least coming down to support. That's what they do all day long, resistance to support. Ron, on your question, no, now the bias, the thing is on zone trades, okay, we don't look at the backgrounds when the markets are opening, okay, because what do markets do most times? They've already made their run all night long, okay, whether it's short or long. All right, so when we go into the zone trading part of the day, we're just simply looking at trades straight out of the zone, all right? Now, the conservative trade on this is the break of the zone at 835, which is right there. See how it just popped up a little bit? You're looking for a break of that zone right there. Now, even though we're long on our guidance dots, okay, but see, we already changed on platinum. See the pink right here, this magenta color, and then the rose color here? That platinum's already telling us that we're going short, which is a beautiful indicator, by the way. All right, but it did break our zone, and we did take this trade in the room. Everybody that was in the room yesterday does remember this trade. All right, but I'm going to show you how to keep the trade and then go for the gusto and then get in again when you get a retracement. And we get some pretty good entries on these. Isn't that box just forming with time? It hasn't gotten down to the 5-minute level yet. The box is forming with time, absolutely. And in real time, this is actually forming according to the way you've got the indicator set. Let me show you. On the zone, this is the way we designed breakout zones. All right, see how it's showing here? I've got mine set on calculate on bar close false. That way the box draws strictly with time only. Because if it's drawing with the close of the bar, then it's going to have to wait, and that gets me in a little later than I like. Okay, but this box is really nice because you just simply set the times in the box. And by the way, if you haven't been with us before, let me show you something that we send out every single night to people, except for Friday. That was the first time we weren't able to send it out because Rich's computer bit the dust. But here is Thursday. All right, we send this list out every single night at about 10:30 Central Time. All right, and this tells our people what to look for high energy time zones. This is absolutely being recorded, yes, Kenneth. The high energy times that we send out, by the way, are super. I mean, you can flat bank on them. Our people, I'm sure they missed them yesterday because Rich's computer went down, and Rich spends about 3 hours a night calculating all of these high energy times based on calculations that he's personally designed and is very, very good at. Okay, and we send these out, and you can put these on your chart with these breakout zones. All right, now these are in Pacific time, by the way. This is not Oklahoma time. All right, when we put the email out, I always put it on the email that it's in Pacific time, not in Oklahoma time. We will change that pretty soon to where they'll automatically show in your time. Okay, but this is sent out to our members every single evening, which is just absolutely super. All right. So this is a high energy zone right here. Now this is what we call the opening zone. This is the opening zone. We always do the opening zone from 8:31 Oklahoma time to 8:35. That's 4 minutes. Unless we have a high energy time. If we sent out a high energy time, which the other day, by the way, we did, a high energy time said 6:38 right here. Well, that's 8:38 my time. So we naturally set the zone box to end at 8:38 instead, because we knew we had a high energy zone at 8:38. So always watch your high energy zones, because we only do the zone at the normal open if we don't have a high energy zone within a few minutes of the open. Okay. Now let's see how we stayed in this trade, by the way, because we did take this trade and there's a third one that we also took. All right. But let's say you took this trade right here. All right. We nailed that trade. We're in it. We're in it. We're not worried about it. All right. If I get a reversal candle at all, I usually like to take one off on a trend line break, especially if it's dropped that low. So let's say that I'm in 4 contracts. I am going to get out of at least one on this little trend line break, because you can see the trend line just along those highs. All right, so I'm out of 1. All right. Now, if you want to add again, by the way, if it takes out the swing, you can do it again. I do that all the time too. But let's just go ahead and say we took out 1. All right. But let's see how far we can go down on this trade, because this trade was live in the room yesterday. Okay. See it dropping? Now, where is your identified swing on this particular move? Our people know this. It's right there, right? It's right there. That's where your identified swing, thrust, retrace, that's what we call an identified swing, because it took out this previous low by at least 6 or so ticks, 6 to 8 ticks. All right? Now, could you stay with this trade as long as this isn't taken out? Now, where's my identified swing at? Just a micro swing, by the way. But where's my swing identified at? Right there. See how that did a little consolidation right there? Not much, but if you're trading for a gusto type trade, you can go ahead and protect your stop. You don't want to be clear up here, because that dropped, what, another 30, well, say 19 ticks? That's a pretty good drop. So you can put your stop right here. Okay? Let's watch it. See, it doesn't take out that swing. See it right there? Now, you could have taken some more off. See a trend line break across there? See where you got a high here and another little high there? You could draw it right across there. You could have taken one more contract off, so you'd be in 2. See that? Or you could trust this little micro swing and see if you can get more trade. See it? And when it finally gives up, by the way, it's going to take out the previous swing. And it could even be a micro swing like this, or it can be a little bit more of a swing like this one. All right? Now let me show you how to watch this trade. All right? You could be out of that trade. See, it took out the swing. It definitely took out a, see how I drew my trend line? It definitely took that out, right? So couldn't you get out of that trade right there on a close of that bar, or even a close of that one for sure? And guess what? There's your other trend line. If you draw on your charts, see that little pottering down where you can draw your trend line? That took it out right there. How did you get the blue auto trend line to work? Dan, it's not a auto trend line. I just draw these. But we do, there are some auto trend lines out there. You can find them on Ninja's website or something like that. Okay, now let's go for where we got in this trade again. Everybody remember this? This is the first time yellow bar probe after a trend change. See the background? That's a little early because we like to wait at least 30 to 45 minutes. But what I like to personally do is draw a trend line under the lows, and you can clearly see that you could take a trade. Your aggressive entry is right there. See it, 1 tick under that bar. We teach it. If you want to wait a little bit to see if it goes back up one more, you're going to be missing the boat. All right? See that? Now, if you wanted to get into it a different way, you wait for the Pottery Entry, which is going to be a break of this right here. But keep in mind, if you took the Pottery Entry, which is right here, you're going to have to still put your stop up here. And your target is right here. Everybody see that? You're in. You got to trust your swing. Now you can drop your stop to the swing now. See them right there? Still okay. Still okay. And there's your target. See it? Right there. Got your target. Now, to stay in the gusto trade, just simply stick with the trade until it gets rid of a swing. Everybody see that? There's a swing, by the way, just a small one right there that it took out. If you want it out, you could also draw your trend line along those highs and get out of the trade. Everybody see that? It's a pretty cool way to trade. It absolutely works. By the way, we're 51 minutes into the day. Did everybody get something out of this? Because I can tell you this, that if you'll learn to trade like this, and truthfully, if you learn to just have your eyeballs turn these on to where you can see these pottery entries, you can make some serious, serious coin, because you'll see these swings being taken out. You'll see a trend line in your eye before it ever even forms. I can see trend lines in my sleep nowadays, and I've trained myself to do that. You know, when I see these little moves down, I know that that's a trend line, and look where it broke it. But couldn't you get back in the trade? Because that's a yellow bar probe. And look at that other move that it made. It made another great move. Absolutely. Jim, on your question, I don't think there's a chart in the world that works better than range charts. I like range charts better than anything out there. All right, let's go ahead and go on. I want to show everybody how to tell when a trend changes before we leave. All right, now you can pretty much tell your trend changed. See, I changed the color of the boxes here. Okay, because what happened? You topped out, you took out lows, but we got in way up here. Remember, that's a zone break, so we got a monster trade. Think about that. That's a heck of a trade, by the way. To get a trade like that with several contracts, absolutely works. But let's look and see when this thing changes back the other way. We're just going to watch it. See where I've drawn on here these little swings? Got a fresher low, okay? By the way, you could still be in that trade. See, the trend line hadn't been broken on that yellow bar probe. Now it's breaking the potter right there. See it? Where I changed the color of the line there, and it kind of double bottomed, so you could get out of the trade right there. Or for sure at this swing, because this swing right here, where my cursor's moving across, is identified at least a little bit. See, it took out that low. Now, when I like to see the major swings identified, I like them to be at least 6, 10, and even more ticks. When I'm looking at micro swings, I'm looking for breaks. And if they start pottering back up, that's a good out, and for sure if they took that swing out right there. Okay? Because what happens then? Okay, we've got a low, a lower high here, lower low here. Okay? Lower high, lower low. So we expect this to go back down, right? Now, when does a trend change? Well, it's pottering up. We haven't changed yet. We've got a red platinum. But if it takes out this swing that it identified back here, guess what? It ain't going down anymore. Everybody see that? But watch how our indicators will let you get that trade. Let me just take it along here. You don't have to just jump in them, by the way. See how that just tested that high right across there? And it took it out by maybe a tick. It might be the same. I don't know. It looks really, really close. But if you took that trade, couldn't it be a breakout trade and it's still under long-range guidance stops and everything? So why not just let it do its thing for a while? See, that's 30 minutes. All right. I'm going to show you a trade that we got in the room. Now, this is where it broke out right here. See it? See it taking out that swing? Didn't our background change? All right. We don't chase trades, though. Let's watch it. We called this exact trade in the room yesterday. I'm going to show it to you. Okay, we got a little high there. All right, let's see if we can come down. See this little swing right here that's identified? I called a trade yesterday in the room on that swing right there. We simply said if it takes a kiss down to right there, I'm going to take a quick long trade. There it was. We got a couple of ticks or so. Comes down just a little bit, try to take us out. We didn't take it out. And I mentioned that it was coming to exactly right here at least. Now, could you have taken a few contracts off? We even showed it in the room with a few contracts. That was up like $300 or $400 just on that little pop. I mean, that's what, 9 ticks. Okay. So if you took a couple of contracts off and then rode the rest of the trade a little bit, you're going to try to get back up to resistance. They haven't tested it yet. See, they're trying to still potter down, but watch them. There they tested it right through there. That was just right after we closed the room down. So guess what? You take some contracts off the table. And before we closed the room, I told everybody in the room, I'm looking to take some contracts off right there. Okay? Now, do you have a trend line already drawn? I drew this ahead of time so you could see it. See the little swing, high, another swing, draw a trend line. All right? You could still stay in the trade thinking it's going to go higher, but if it takes out that trend line, you can get out and get back in. And that's still closed above. That's still closed above. That's closed above. See the candle? And that's closed below. So if it takes out that little micro swing right there, I'd get out of that trade. But guess what? I'm going to probably get back in it. Because what you look for then, we love what we call a yellow bar probe. You wait around for a retest into another support area because they'll always give it to you. What's this? See there? There's your yellow bar. See it right there? See how you can draw it? The trend line. Takes out the trend line to the upside. By the way, this is a pretty good little trade too. If you just simply take out this green line back to the upside again, or you can wait with a trend line like I drew. Okay, that one didn't close above it. If you want to wait for a close above it, you can. That one closed above it right there. See the trend line right there? And if I was doing this in real time, I might even do, you know what? I don't trust that quite as much, so I might move it just a tad. Let me just get rid of it for a second. I'll show you how I might draw it. Because you can be doing with your finger on the trigger, so to speak, because we do that a lot too. So you can see this little area right through there that you could draw the trend line like so now. See it? And then take it if it takes it out with a close, and there you're in. Okay? Now what you want to do is put your stop just a couple of ticks under that swing. Bank a little bit of coin because you just got some coin, not much yet. Where's it actually trying to head though? At least up to here. See the previous swing? It absolutely is trying to head there, isn't it? Okay? So what are you trying to do? You're trying to actually make sure that you get those swings once they get identified, right? And that's important. So let's just stick with the trade. We got in here. All right. We didn't get taken out. Bingo. We just hit it. That's a coin banker. And couldn't you, at this point, draw a trend line under the lows to protect yourself on the rest of your contracts? I can see the swing. See it right through there? Little trend line. Still closed above it. Still closed above it. Still closed above it. Okay? You can readjust your trend line, by the way, or use this stop. See this little swing right here? It's not identified yet because they haven't really taken that swing out by much. So you got to really be cautious when they do that. But if you put your stop just under here, you might even readjust your trend line to see if you can stay in it, like right through there. And if they take you out of the swing, see they just tested the swing is all right there. Not taking you out yet. They might though. I'd probably be out of that trade at least for a re-entry because they're testing that swing pretty hard. If that next candle closes up, I might stay. but I'm going to be getting out of that. See how they're pottering down? See that right there? So you could always get out of the trade, right? They're trying to test right here, this little swing area where they just barely pull back. Let's just see if they do. Right across there. All right. Now, if you want to trust that, because that's where they busted up through, you could always just put your stop under that. See how they just kissed it? See exactly on that little swing? See if you can stay with it. Closed above it. Closed above it. So you're still okay. All they're doing, they're not taking out the previous swing. And then you get probably a pretty good trade, I'll bet you. Yeah, there you go. All right. 4 range, Dan, on your question, a 4 range chart strictly means that these bars are not constricted by time. They are only constricted by ticks. So every one of those bars, if you put your cursor on it, is a 4-tick bar. And to me, they make the best identifiers of swings of anything out there. You can absolutely bank on trading it that way. But always remember, if you get a good hit on a trade and you're happy with the money, then draw a trend line and get back in. See, to give an example on this one right here, let's say that you got out here and you didn't go through this other chop. Well, wait for a better opportunity with the trend line. Everybody see the trend line right before your eyes? See it right through there? There it broke it. See, the trend line's the best way to do, in my opinion. I love them because you just simply have to watch the little Potter effect and then draw a trend line. And we teach that in lots and lots of webinars. And I can tell you this, that it'll make you more money than you could possibly imagine. Hardy, on your question, I got to find out from Rich on that, his server computer. He's just going to have to actually just bite the bullet and get rid of that computer and quit waiting on that part, because his server that handles the Oracle is still waiting on a part. Tim, on your question, do we use 4 range on ES and NQ? Yes. When you come into our trading room every single day, you're going to see 4 range charts with this exact template. And we don't deviate from it. I mean, you know, like, well, one day 6 range work, well, one day 4 range, well, one day 3. No, we stay with 4 range charts. We have for a number of years. Now, we do have some bars called VIP bars. That's part of Platinum. That's a whole different trading type of deal entirely. All right. Now, keep in mind these little trend line breaks that we talked about. You can simply use this new tool. You know, when you draw a trend line and you click it to a buy, that actually becomes a buy line. Now, I didn't put it in the right spot on the chart. I'm just showing you the line. See, when that line is breached, it will take a trade. Okay? That's called money line. To give an example on this little trade here, if you would have seen this like so and clicked that money line and just waited for it to be breached, that would have fired that trade right there on that bar. Let's see, what I find hard is to decide when to stay with the trade or scratch it if it bounces back to entry. Well, the whole thing is you've got to get some ticks under your belt before you ever go to your cost, okay? Because you're going to get in and out of trades like nobody's business. And if you're taking like 20 trades in the morning, unless your average is above 75% or better, I wouldn't be taking 20 trades. But just to give an example, this trend line break here that we drew on this yellow, okay, your stop just barely under this swing, because if it breaks that trend line, I expect it to go back to a previous resistance area. I don't expect it to take this out. And if I'm wrong on my trend line drawing and it takes it out, then I'm just going to get back in at a more opportune time. Okay, but I like to draw on the chart where I can see these little potters, and then I just draw my trend line. And what you're doing is you're drawing the trend line through the little peaks. That's all you're doing. You know, it's a pretty simplistic way to do it. All right, let's see. Dennis, on your question, we'll go ahead and answer some questions real quick, by the way. We've got a bunch of people in here. Thanks, everybody, for coming, by the way. Well, D, on your question, the reason that I stopped using the VIP bars as much for my trading is because in the room, I think it's only fair to stay with the exact charts we stay with. We've got a lot of people on Pro only, and then we've got a bunch of people on Platinum and Pro. But it's not really fair to use totally Platinum products when we've got, you know, a bunch of people on like a standard package and a Pro package. So I stick with this particular chart here. Now I do occasionally, after the room closes, I'll use some VIP bars and make a few quick trades, you know, that work out pretty nicely with VIP bars too. But I like range bars. I can see the same thing on a range bar that I can see on a VIP bar. Okay, let's see. Dennis, please confirm the money line is enabled when the black dots are gone. Well, what you do is you just simply draw a line. Let's just go ahead and go to the rest of the day. Let's say, for instance, that, you know, you didn't see this because you're actually already in that trade. See it? Thrust down, retrace. Here was your entry. And here's the aggressive entry that I love. Remember that entry? I like that one when I get, only if I get like 6 or 7 bars like that. See that? I like that entry right there. Okay, but let's say, for instance, that you've got it drawn, whichever, doesn't matter. Just click on it and you get the 3 black dots. You just simply click buy. The moment that line is touched, it will fire the order. Now, if you use the one that closes above the line, you're using this indicator. And this would be a close above. Let's just go ahead and, let's say, for instance, that you're a breakout trader. I'm not, but let's just say you were. You could simply set it like that, and close above that line would get you in the trade. Let's see, Tim, that's a good question. Do you draw trend lines on the range bars if they have wicks, or can they print as solid bars? They only print as the way they are. The range bar, and that's what we like about them. I don't want them as a solid bar. The reason for that is because, for instance, when you see these hammer candles and these shooting star candles, it gives you kind of a heads up that they're going to retrace on you. See that candle right there? It retraced at least 7 or 8 ticks. Here's another shooting star, and it retraced all the way down to here. I watch for those. And when I get those shooting stars, when they get that, you know, it's not a huge shooting star, granted. It's only a 4-tick bar. But when you get a shooting star, you can really see when it starts to retrace. Can you use the trend line trading on Renko bars? Yes, you can. The only thing is I would be very careful is on Renko bars, you're getting a little bit more of an amplified look for a small retrace. This would be huge right here on Renko bars. Let me just show it real quick. I'll just show you Renko bars on that exact deal there. Bear with me one second. I'm setting up another chart over here with Renkos. I'll show you a shooting star, absolutely, and also a hammer. By the way, I can stay as long as anybody wants. I'm here to teach. Our goal at Viper Trading Systems, I know we've got a lot of our members in here today, and they know this. They can get a hold of us most any time on support. We have webinars 4 times a week. We are highly interested in your success as a trader. Okay, let me show you the same chart with Renkos. See how much more amplified that is? See it right through there? See, that's a huge move. By the way, it came perfectly down to platinum before it bounced. You know, that's a pretty good entry right there. But keep in mind, this is what I run into in Renko bars. Let's say, for instance, that I'm watching this and I say, okay, I've got a little trend line right through there. See it? Let me show you how to wick you in. It didn't on that one. There's your entry. Yeah, that one was okay. But sometimes if you draw them too tight, you'll get wicked in. Is there slippage on Renko? Not the ones Rich designed. These are special bars called VIP bars, and Rich designed these, and they're pretty sharp. A lot of our people use them. The only reason that I have quit using them in the trading room, again, like I was saying, is because it's not really fair to our people that are paying for Pro or our regular standard package, you know, to have everything else that they don't see. So in the trading room, to be fair to everybody, we use 4 range bars. But truthfully, I can see the same line. I'll bet you we drew that line right there, right? Let's change this to Renko bars. I'll bet it's in the same spot. Let's just change it to Renko bars. They're VIP bars. They're a hybrid Renko. Let's see if that line stays in the same spot. Because I can see the line regardless if it's Renko or range bars. Let's see, Dennis. So the money line is enabled and will take the trade when the dots are showing. Well, when the dots are showing, no. See, it's a little different. See, I had a little bit looser because of the range bars. So your entry would have been here, where on the VIP bars, your entry was there. So you got a little bit better entry on the VIP bars, but you can also get sucked into them too. So be real careful on that. Okay. Let's see. Let me show you a little bit more on that money line so you can see that. I'm going to go back to 4R. Bear with it a second. It'll load. By the way, these trades that we just went over in this chart today, these were trades that were live in the room on Friday. You know, it's easy to mark up a chart after the fact, but everybody that was in our room yesterday knows exactly where we took these trades. And I for sure absolutely called that trade right there and got that. And by the way, with 5 contracts, that was a good $700 trade. Okay, let's see. So the money line. Okay, let me show you the money line a little bit more. All right. Let me get rid of all the lines. Well, I don't want to get rid of all the boxes. We'll just get rid of the lines so that we're not totally confusing on this chart. All right. Let's say, for instance, that you saw this swing right here. Right now, that's your only choice because that bar is closing right there, or you'd have to wait for it to come down to support. Okay. If you wanted to take this trade on a breakout trade, you'd simply set the line across there like that. You cannot have the bar touching the line when you draw it. That's extremely important because it will not fire anything. This trade could go all the way up to here and you wouldn't get a trade. You have to have it above the bar when it's forming. Okay, so if a bar is moving and you put your line on the bar, it won't fire. All right, but if you use this particular indicator here, money line 1, it'll fire it the second that line's touched. If you use this one instead, it will fire it when the bar closes above the line or below the line in the case of a sell. Okay, and the way we did that on our indicator, just go to indicators here real quick. Breakout money line is set to bar close false, and breakout money line 2 is set to bar close true. Okay, now if you use the stop line, you want to be sure and put your actual account number in here. Okay, that's extremely important, by the way, because you don't want to fire a trade on sim if you're in your live account. So be sure and put your live account number in there if you're using the stop. Now, if you're just using the bars, which is what I do, I don't like the stop as much because I don't want to get out of a complete trade. I like to kind of stair-step my trades, just the way I taught today. So what I do a lot of times, let's say that I get a thrust up and I draw my trend line. Well, if I'm in 4 contracts, I'm going to get out of 2 when it breaks the trend line. And then when it gets me another trend line, then I'll draw it, and then I'll get out of the other 2. But in the meantime, I may even get in again if they break another trend line and add 2 more. You know, so by doing that, you just simply change your quantities over here, you know, and just use the line. You know, you can, for instance, you could set this for 4, and the second that line's broken, like so, it would fire 4 contracts. Okay, let's say that it fired. Let's say that you're in it, but then you only want to get out of 2 if it breaks a trend line. Well, you just wait for it to thrust up and draw your trend line. Then you change this to 2, and then it'll get out to 2. Let's see, Tim, range or VIP bars all change color from red, yellow, green. With what causes that change? Does that factor in your entries or exits? Red, yellow, and blue, you mean? Well, on the VIP bars, the way Rich teaches it in the Platinum webinars, he doesn't use the colors. He uses it just strictly with the red and green on the Ninja. I've gotten so used to these colors, I can trade them, you know, just the moment I see them, I start seeing trend lines. So I like a trend line myself. And I love the colors on our charts to begin with because these are great trades. These are beautiful trades to take. Okay, let's see here. By the way, anybody that came in on the invite, If you're interested at all in talking further about Viper, just email us, support@vipertradingsystems.com, Viper licensing at vipertradingsystems.com, and on our contact pages, even my phone number here at the office. And I'm also on Skype as Viper Trader with no space, just Viper Trader, just the way you'd spell it out. And we're here to help. We want people to be successful. We've got traders all over the world that are successful trading because they trade like we teach. All right, let me show you. Dan's asking about the shooting stars and the hammers, so let's show those. I want to take this chart nice and big so we can all see it. All right, a shooting star. Sorry about that phone, Linda will get it real quick. Okay, she got it. Sorry about that. All right, this is a shooting star candle right here, Dan. When you have the body of the candle very small and the wick large, that's a shooting star to the downside. It's called a shooting star when it's to the downside. Now, a hammer candle is actually the opposite of that. Here's one right here. See it right here? Now, I don't like this one as much. See where it's half and half? The true hammer candle, you wait for a good retracement, come into some support area, and you watch for these hammers. And you can clearly see you got trend lines too. Okay? The wick usually, when you're doing it on daily, of course, you're really talking about it being at least 2 times the body. But on a 4-range bar, you can't have your cake and eat it too, so to speak. So they're not as important, but you will see them as turning points. See that right there, shooting star? It came down. Okay? From a low, you know, you get the hammers. Let's see. I don't see too many hammers through there. There's one right here. But like I say, I like the trend lines the best because they just flat will get you in good trades. But a shooting star is simply that candle right there, and a hammer is that candle right there. Okay. Also look for your 1, 2, 3 reversals too, because, you know, a lot of times when they reverse, you know, 3 candles back, you can usually see that they're going to retrace some. They don't always though. See, like this right here, there was a candle up, a candle down, and another candle down, but see, it didn't take this candle out at all until right over here. So that wasn't one. This one here though was one. See it? Candle up, candle down, took out the low, came down a little further. But isn't a trend line break better? Let's say you would have been long in that trade. This is the way I would have drawn the trend line. Right under those lows. I would have gotten out anyway. If you're just taking scalp type trades. Because remember, in chop, you can take scalp trades too. What are you doing when you're in chop? You're simply going from support to resistance. Here's an idea of chop right here. Let's just get rid of all the boxes. We'll go over one more simple little trade and then we'll close. Get rid of all the boxes. All right, isn't this chop right here? You know, like right here in this chop, but this is in an upward momentum. So couldn't you simply watch for the thrust down, the little retrace, pottering down, and get ready and take the trade when it breaks the trend line and you get a nice little quick trade? That's a scalp trade. But you don't stay with scalp trades forever. You just simply watch your trend line. If it takes you out, you're out again. All right, watch for it one more time. Well, that's at 8:30. You wouldn't do that one because you see you got your zone box drawn. Don't take little trades like that when the markets are open. They'll kill you. Always make sure you draw support and resistance on your chart before markets open too. You know, you can clearly see you've got support up here and resistance down here. Use your zone box. Take that trade we called in the room, and let's face it, that was a monster trade. Then we got the other trade, the yellow bar probe. Got that trade. It's a good day. Very good day. And you can clearly see a trend line even right there. Before I go another bar, I can still see a trend line forming right there. See it? And you could be out of the trade when it takes it out. Didn't take it out. Didn't take it out, so you're still okay. See? Draw your trend lines. Well, let's just draw it. You'll see right where to get out. kind of right down through. That's pretty accurate right there. And bingo, you're out. See there how that works? Let's see, what would happen to those trend line orders if you had to reboot your Ninja, or could they automatically send in multiple trades once you reconnected, depending on how many times the line was touched? Well, the thing is, the way that particular indicator is, you can set it for limit orders or market orders. A market order is not at your broker naturally. It has to touch the trend line to fire a market order. If you use the money line with limit orders, then it would be with your broker the moment you put it on the chart. Okay. Now, what I always do when I break a trend line, let's say, for instance, that you were looking at this and we got this trade in the room, remember? And then we would have gotten this trade for the yellow bar probe even, because you can clearly see a trend line. When I take those trades and I get up at all, well, the second I take that trade, I quickly do that, put in my sell, because even though this broke a trend line, and then what I'm doing at that point is I'm waiting to get a trend line like so, and then what I will do is I'll draw a trend line underneath those in real time as the market's moving, okay? And when your market's moving, of course, you don't see anything else on the right of the chart, because obviously your price is the last bar, right? But then I get rid of this one and I activate this one. See, and that way if it breaks it, then I get out of the trade. And then I look for a re-entry, which I can see already. See it? And then you get in again. Absolutely, it works. It's a beautiful way to trade. That way you don't have to hold. Because what happens when you get in way down here, and what do? They come up, they come back, they come up, they come back. And you can get monster trades. Matter of fact, that's all the way into the close. Okay? But who wants to pull through that kind of pullbacks? You can get out and back in. As long as these little swings aren't taken out, though, you're still heading up. When they finally take those out, you get ready to draw your trend lines. Or you draw your tight trend line if you get a real nice thrust down. Let's see, so you wouldn't go long at transition zone around 10 a.m. Well, Christopher, that is a point, and that did take out that swing right there. That was your identified swing, but it wasn't identified but by about 6 ticks. So yes, once that took that out, you could have gotten long on that too. But what you do in a case like that, usually, don't take the breakout trade. Let it go ahead and thrust up. Let it pull back some. See how it pulls back? Always wait for a pullback, because what did it do? It broke that swing, and what's it doing? It's coming back to kiss it. See it? Because that was resistance, and now it's support. Bet you it bounced right there, didn't it? See? That's where it came down and kissed, was right there at support. Anytime they break resistance, it's going to come support. Yeah, well, at this point right here, too, you were taking out that swing, yes. That's a pretty risky trade, by the way, because I see those a lot of times where they'll come up and then they'll roll over. So be very careful with those. I like to, if they're going to do that, I like to get a thrust and a retrace and use a trend line. And if the trend line doesn't work, then you're not out that much money, because guess what? When the trend line's broken, you're not going to let it take you for 10, 15 ticks, right? You're going to simply watch your trade. See this one right here? Coming down, you draw your trend line. You could clearly see that you're at support. If they were to break the support area, by the way, right across there, see it right there? And then it closes above it. You draw your trend line, you get in the trade, and you get your pretty nice little trade. Never took out that swing. See there? But they will, a lot of times, bring you up 6 or 8 ticks and pull you right back to cost. That's why so many people lose money trading, because you've got to respect your swings. But you could wait till you got platinum, and we did nail this trade in the room right there when it came down to that swing. We called it. We said, okay, this swing is identified, so I'm going to take a trade if it comes back down and kisses it. And we got that trade right there. And it came up and kissed resistance. Then you got taken out of a trend line, and you could get back in again on the yellow bar. All right, just got to wait around for trades. We don't chase trades in Viper Trading Room. A lot of times if we see them break, now at a zone trade, yes, but you know, when you get a thrust down and you missed it, let's say that you walked in, you had a cup of coffee and said, I'm not going to trade. Oh my gosh, the market's breaking down like crazy. So you shorted it, I don't know, right here, say. Let's say that you just saw this happening right there and you said, gosh, I'm going to short this. Well, you're shorting it at support. See what I mean? So what do? They retrace and give you another chance to get in, and there's your retracement trade. We wait for that yellow bar probe if we miss this. And you're always going to get a retracement trade, except in an occasional, what they call a V-shaped retracement. Those V-shaped retracements, they'll still give you time to get in. You just got to be quick at it. Let's see, Jim, can those trend lines reactivate themselves automatically after one reboots? No. No, once they're hit, they turn off. The second it's hit, it goes back to a regular line. All right, everybody, we ran about 30 minutes over. I thank everybody for coming. I hope you got a bunch out of this, because this is exactly the way we teach and trade. And like I said, with trend lines, you can't call an exact entry, but the software will take it, and then you can get these monster moves, right? And when you see me drawing in the room for trend lines, you can count on the fact that I'm looking at those to get out of trades and then back in. All right? Everybody have a great weekend. Thanks for coming. And if you want to join Viper, if you've been with us for a week or so, give us a call. We'd love to have you. The email, Jim, is support@vipertradingsystems.com. Okay? Also, Viper licensing at vipertradingsystems.com. If you miss on that, by the way, let me just show you where our contact page is. You can't miss us at Viper because we're easy to get a hold of. Let me just go to our website just real quick. All right. If you simply look on our website under contact, vipertradingsystems.com contact, there's Charles and I on Skype. There's email, viperlicensing@vipertradingsystems.com, and also support@vipertradingsystems.com, and a phone number. You don't get that with most of the guys out there, even with large companies. We give you 3 ways to get a hold of us. And my name is Gary Donahue. I'm a partner with Viper, have been for a little over 5 years now. All right. Thanks again, everybody, for coming. And this webinar was recorded for our members. And, of course, it'll be posted. Hopefully, if Charles is around, it'll be posted today. But we're still having some HTML editing issues. He's trying some new software. And as soon as he gets that all squared away, it'll be better. All right. One of our HTML editors quit working so well. Okay. Thanks again, everybody, for coming. And believe me, if you trade this way, you will make coin. Have a good day, and we'll see you in the trading room on Monday. Bye, everyone.